You gotta live it one day at a time. You're falling away because you don't sleep awake. It's a vicious cycle, and now you're on the brink. It's better to crash and burn than to never fly. Things ain't that bad. Listen to others cry. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Just try to keep on living. Somebody's got it double. You're lying in bed. The dark winds worry and woe. You're thinking you got it bad, but you should only know. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Just try to keep on living. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Just try to keep on living. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Crying out loud about all of the trouble. No matter how much you've got, somebody's got it double. You're lying in bed. The dark winds worry and woe. You're thinking you've got it bad, but you should only know. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Just try to keep on living. One day at a time. You gotta live it one day at a time. You're falling away because you don't sleep awake. It's a vicious cycle, and now you're on the brink. others who cry. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given. The secret of life is accept what you get. Just try to keep on living. Somebody's got a double. You're lying in bed. The dark brings worry and woe. You're thinking you got it bad, but you should only know. You're the lucky one. Take what you're given.
And here we go again, folks.
No, that's tomorrow night.
Oh,
Here
that's
we are
tomorrow.
again. This is
Tomorrow
a
night.
happy Thursday and happy birthday, Michael Newton.
If our dog was here, he would sing to you.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you. Yay! Happy birthday, Michael.
Did you hear him?
I did hear him. Remy's outside.
He was. Come on in. Come on. Michael's birthday. Let's go. I'm coming. Just gonna bitch at me then, right? Gonna squeak. I wanted to sing too. Well, we're jumping right into it tonight, kids. You're gonna enjoy this one. If you didn't see it the first time around, and even if you did, because there's a lot of cool stuff in here. This is a rerun of Chuck Berge, drummer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, he's played in some serious situations, including his current gig with Billy Joel.
Right, and Brand X, and
Yeah.
Michael Bolton,
And Rainbow.
Danger.
Rainbow?
Rainbow? Yeah.
Rainbow.
Okay,
So, okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I mean,
You gotta tell him we cut the cord.
oh, well, you can tell him.
Well, I think I just did.
We cut the cord.
Man, I am about sick of,
Cable bills.
it's ridiculous.
So we bought
So-
a Roku.
We went Roku HD, 4K, holy wow. So we should be saving millions of dollars a year. And the thing that I realized is, I remember moving from one area to another where you had a different cable provider, and then some of your channels weren't there. But in time, you forget about it. And this just seems like a fantastic... I just can't wait to call them up and say, we're done, bitches.
And we got to go in there with our boxes. Oh, Laurie Richardson loves her Roku. All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Good, that is good to know.
And can you record things like to watch later on your Roku?
Yeah, can you DVR things? I mean, we just got it,
We do,
so
yeah, we got it like an
we're still
hour
figuring
before.
it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we watch a lot of stuff, and now we're not paying as much for it, which is a good thing.
But we need to know if we can record it.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. I mean, they would know that you would want to do that.
Yeah, she says, I do. She does.
I
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
All right, well, we got to get on to Chuck's.
Okay,
because he
yeah,
says,
Chuck Berge. This was a great. He's a great guy. Certainly an area guy. A mainstay amongst first call drummers. Funny guy, talented guy, and clever guy. So here you go. Let's take a look at
With
Chuck.
one all the way back from October 8th, 2020.
Here we go. And here we are.
I feel like I'm at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, man, here you are. Better than Madison Square Garden.
I miss that so very much.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what, I love watching the joy on your face. I think I can get rid of this thing now, my appendage. I loved watching the joy on your face as you were watching the clip.
Oh man, wow.
Yeah.
It's really hard to not just go on forever about what the Billy Joel experience has been for me and my life and my career, much less to see a shot like that where it's actually looking out that's kind of the way I see it, but I don't ever see it from behind me.
No.
And that was a thrill. And that was a while ago. I've actually pared the kid down substantially for a variety of reasons, but that was back when I was playing a bigger kid.
Yeah, I noticed that there were more tom-toms than you have in later videos, and you know, when I was looking around, like I said, I'm really always concerned about copyright infringement. I don't want to get not that we're broadcasting, you know, to the North Pole, which we are, but it doesn't matter. You know, so I try to find interesting stuff that'll, you know, at least show you know, and all I did actually was I in YouTube I just searched your name and Billy Joel, but your name first, and so. You know, that's what came up, and I found it, and I thought, man, you know, I've seen that view many times, like you, but that perspective from the back, even for me, to see how enormous that band is, that's
a big bunch of, there's 8 of us and Bill, and it's, boy, I miss it. I mean, that was just a thrill to watch that, you know, it's been so long since we've done that. It's been 7 months. Our last gig was in Mexico City at the end of the first week in March.
Yeah, and that's it's great. And you know, sorry, go ahead.
Is that a dog?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could see, yeah. It's
I'm saying this like
it's a rather big dog.
Yeah. His name is Remy.
Yeah, his name. Yeah, he was named after a fine cognac. Anyway, I'm sure everybody knows that you guys do a residency there. That's got to be pretty cool. And it occurred to me, I guess you don't have a separate set of gear just for the garden, but you know, it must be pretty easy. It's like rolling into a club. It's like rolling into this place speaks.
It's become all of our office, you know, being it once a month. The beginning of this year was the 7th consecutive year that we started with sellouts. And it's tough not to just pontificate for endless amounts of time about how cool it is, because, you know, growing up in the metropolitan area, playing at the Garden was a dream from when I first saw Ringling Brothers Barn and Story at the old Garden, which was up in, you know, I don't know, in the 50s, I think. It was a big square monster. But man, just joining Billy has been beyond my wildest dreams. We've done gigs. The 2 Shea gigs come to mind, and those were in 2008. And there was a while where I thought, well, there's no way this is going to get even bigger. And then suddenly, you know. Suddenly it did. I mean, in 2010, we took 2 years off, maybe more than that, while Billy had some work done on his hips. And so he had to recover from that. And then Hurricane Sandy came through and changed everybody's lives. And we were asked last minute to do the benefit. And that particular night, We haven't played together in months and months and months. We did one short afternoon rehearsal at some studio in Midtown, and then did the Garden Show, and it was our first show in, wow, years.
Wow.
And because we had stopped in 2010, and it was so thrilling. It was just all I could do to try and keep from exploding. Like it was so thrilling. And then what ended up happening was Billy was in such great form. We actually did a couple of other shows that were as tributes to the people and to help bring awareness of Sandy. And after a couple of weeks, suddenly, I guess Billy's booking agent got deluged with calls from promoters who thought, well, he was gone. And suddenly they're like, we have to book this. And suddenly we started doing really big venues again. We always did arenas, and then suddenly we were being offered baseball stadiums. And then it's just gotten so crazy that this year would have been the first year that we were going to primarily play, and I think there were 6 of them sold out as of March, football stadiums.
Oh, wow.
Our first big show of 2020 was going to be Panthers Stadium in North Carolina. And it was sold out in March, and we were getting set to go down there, and then this whole weirdness hit. So, watching that clip, it's the best band I've ever been in. It's with the best songwriter. It's with the best singer. It's with the best crew. It's with the best production. It's so top of the line. It's insane.
That's no pun intended, music to my ears. I love, I've heard so many burnout stories about guys who are slugging it out from one gig to the next. Oh man, I got, especially back in the bad old days. And to hear, and I saw it in your face. I mean, I saw it when you were watching the clip. I could see how much you love it, and that just, I was telling, I stopped really hardcore touring 3 years ago. Not on purpose, just because I wasn't out fishing for the next gig, and you know how that runs. And it was time to, change things around a little bit. And I thought to myself, well, this is okay. This is okay. Then I got this idea, which I'll share with you later, about how, because I have the studio, so I thought, well, I'll do a track and I'll send it to him, and he'll do a track and they'll send it to them, and I was thinking, this is all like way to jam, not hey, let's all play Strawberry Fields Forever. I'll send you I'll send you a rhythm track, and you play some fills over it and send it back to me, and then we're creating something.
Yeah, you bet.
So all of a sudden, and so I'm doing that with a couple of other guys, and I'm going to do it with you as well. And all of a sudden now, again, I'm having trouble getting to sleep at night. I can't wait to get up tomorrow to go in and light everything up and play. Man, that's just what we are.
Everybody wants to feel that way all the time, and certainly. Since joining Billy, I have my life has been like being shot out of a cannon every day.
Wow.
And it's been the best. It's been absolutely the best. It's kept me feeling younger and stronger as time's gone on. And the gig has been so demanding that, and you know this as a drummer, you just to play the way I want to, I have to work out hard. At least at this point in my life, a couple of times a week. I do light weights, but when I'm playing as much as I normally do, I don't worry about upper body strength. I just want to keep playing. But it's the Billy gig is absolutely is way beyond what my comprehension of anything I could achieve in my career would be. Really, it's and playing the songs. It's taken me a long time. To leave behind the feeling of, well, I can make this a little better. Because when I joined the band, I thought, yeah, I love those tracks, but I could probably, and none of it was broken. Mm-hmm. And as time's gone on, played less and less. I hopefully have, grown in realizing that the songs were perfect when they were put out, and they don't need. All he needs is consistency from me. He doesn't need me to reinvent the wheel. He doesn't need, we have songs that end on the dime. We have songs that rave up like that one we just watched. And those are and with those moments, I kind of look at those as like, okay, I'm going to sneak in a couple of wacky things. And that's it. And, my days of wanting to take a solo, there's no need in Billy's repertoire, and there never was a solo in his shows, really. So playing his songs is so fulfilling. It's pretty humbling, and it's pretty awe-inspiring that the more I play them, I hope the better I play them, because I get inside of them and realize it doesn't even need me to do anything other than try and play what was originally there.
Well, you know how you can tell you're doing it right? Your ass can still feel the chair.
There you go.
That's all you got to know. If your ass is feeling the chair. I mean, how many years has it been?
I'm going on 15 with Billy.
That's awesome and well deserved. I mean, I've listened to a lot of tracks, for a number of reasons, but mostly live stuff. I want to see what Cher Rivera's wearing and so on and so forth. But I always get taken to, you got a left hand, bro, and they mix you very well. It's a very generous mix. And the thing that I noticed from the clip I watched tonight was how well it sounds from the back.
Back, yeah. Which is weird, because our bass player's he's not playing through a rig. So there's no live. The only live sound is the horns, Billy's voice, Crystal's percussion, my drum, and Tommy's guitar. Everybody else is virtual in the mix, so there's not big sound on stage, but it sounds good from the back because we have a thing going on, and the speakers spill enough even to those people who are sitting really close to the back that they're getting a good mix.
Well, man, I mean, you can tell they're getting a good mix in the back now, and I mean, why shouldn't they? If you're going to sell that seat, you gotta, you have to fly what you need to fly for those people too, and obviously they did a good job. But let me ask you this: I guess not having a lot of amp power on stage makes it easier for you to communicate with. I mean, there's 7 other people that you have to lock together and kind of put it out there so Billy can, that's a very weird, interesting kind of train, because you're driving the train no matter what, but you're driving it for him. So is there communication, or does everybody just know what they know and they play the book?
Well, let's see. That's a good question. I'm on in-ears, and I really prefer that in this band, because we are really spread out, and there's so much to hear. We'll do one song, let's say Zanzibar, and I want to hear Carl's trumpet. But if I had to get all that stuff, in my monitor all the time, it would drive the sound man nuts. And his main thing is Billy. But so I'm on in-ears, but Tommy is not, and Billy is not. But there's always I'm just on his face all night. So and we've been playing together long enough now that there's a lot of ESP, and you know what that is when it's good and when it works. We all get it, and there's. We can take a left turn when he does, probably within one beat. And and I have him really well mixed in my in-ears, and he's the primary thing going on in my ears. His piano, his vocal. Then it's my kid. Then it's everybody else.
And I mean, with all the technology, and believe me, I have my. I hear you, brother. I have my Jerry Harveys right here.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, haven't they? That's a whole nother conversation for us.
It's a big one. It took a long time to get right. The guy that we have, his name's Josh. He is phenomenal on in-ears. Wasn't always like that. I struggled at Shea.
Oh.
I struggled at both shows. They were so hard because the in-ear monitor man was just terrible.
Well, because basically you're deaf and you're hearing what you're allowed to hear at somebody else's discretion or their talent level. See, now I'll tell you an interesting thing, and this I wanted to go back because I want to go back to when we were all coming up back in the wonderful days of yore. But back in the 70s, early 74, 75, I started using headphones because I was a singing drummer. And they had come out with the first version of the SM10, which was the Shure mic. So I screwed it into the side of the cups, and it saved my hearing because and I've got a stereo mix. I even had a kill switch for the mic and another one for the in case there was feedback. And so believe me, I appreciate in-ears like you have no idea. It's I love that, and I love what you can get. I can see.
Yep, with a great sound man, it's really incredible. And for the Billy Band, it's a big, dense sound we want to put out, and I need to hear everybody. It's not like I just need to hear the whole band that I'm playing with, and because we're spread out, I can't always see everybody clearly, but as long as I can hear them, then I can cue, then I can watch Bill, then we have communication, and we can do the craziest stuff that he might want to do. And the longer I play with him, I think the easier it's gotten.
Yeah, I certainly, believe me, I understand that telepathy, and for me, I started out in the same band for 25 years, so and it wasn't 9 people on stage, it was 4 of us, so the telepathy was able, you were able to really grow it, and if everybody was, which luckily we were, everybody thinking the same thought, man, it was like a flock of birds that could turn without hitting each other.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is and I think every musician that I know aspires to have that happen in their career, in their life, and in the band they're in. And we're just lucky that not only is it an amazing bunch of musicians, but it's also a great bunch of friends. And some of these people are my best friends, period. So we're on multi-levels when we go out there with Billy. It's magic, man. It's magic. He's made me work harder overall than any artist I've ever worked with. And I need to hear every breath. I need to hear everything he says. I need to hear every note he plays, right or wrong. I just need to hear it all. And he's been singing phenomenally the last couple of years. I mean, he always did.
Yeah.
And there was a point when we broke, and I thought, I don't know, when we come back, he was like, he's better. Oh my God, how did that happen? How does he sing even better than he did when I first joined him? So it's crazy. It's really
well.
crazy.
All right, let me ask you something. You must have experienced this phenomenon. You're out 6 months, 4 months, a year, whatever it is, and then you don't play. Then then the tour's over. You go home and you do whatever it is you do, whatever your "I'm now home" ritual is. Then all of a sudden you go back and you start playing again, and you say, "Is it possible that I got better?" I mean, don't you feel that like reinvigoration when you start up again? It's like, wow.
Yeah, especially if I don't think most people recognize how labor intensive it is to travel to a different country, let's say every 3 days in our case, do shows, stay healthy, and do that. We would go out for 10 weeks at a time when I first joined him. And so, and some of the legs were, to South Africa, and then over to New Zealand and Australia, and then up to Japan, and then, ending in Hawaii, and then you fly home and you're just like, wow.
Believe me.
For weeks, you're catching up with yourself. So
especially when you go that way around the world too, it's really bizarre. Sometimes it's not so bad if you start in the east and you go across the United States and then do Hawaii and go back to, and then come back around through Europe that way, and then it's only just a short hop to New York, and you've got. But man, why do they always go the other way?
Yeah, but it's crazy, man. It was really crazy. So yeah, I'd like to think that I got better doing the gig. Not just strength-wise, but understanding his music more. I think after every tour, I would listen to the originals again and go like, how far did I deviate? And if I had any live stuff to compare it to, it'd be like, more mental notes. Don't play that. Don't. It's all, for me. It's always been, take that out. Don't do that. They've let me, our sound man especially, he's let me throw a couple of. I think they're more like double bass things that I do in the show to begin something or to end something. But he's let me keep a couple of them in. But he's really talked me out of. He called it, "Don't do that dream theater thing there," And he's right. He's always been right. And I maybe wasn't always aware of it at the time, but he's helped steer me in. When I have your bass drum that big in the house, I don't need 3 notes, going, ga, ga, ga.
Right. I believe I get that, and because I am
I still do it once in a while, but he's backed off and he's like, okay, because some of those things are kind of built into the way I play at this point. But yeah, man, my whole thing with Billy really over the years has been subtractive. What can I not play? And most of it's been just take that out. I'll listen to a live thing. Oh, that was horrible. Take that out. Don't ever do that again. When I first started playing with Billy, one of the things I really wasn't aware of is whenever he looked up, if I was doing a fill, that's bad, because he's actually looking for the time. I would do something, and I think he'd look up and be like, wow, that was cool. And actually, I soon came to realize, no, he's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, he's looking for the time. Wow.
And so it's just, okay, remember to back, there's one, Bill. It's really about telegraphing it and supporting him. And then when I did that, everybody else is behind me, and it works.
As long as everybody has you in their monitor, whether it's in-ears or, wedges, side fills, then they're going to know where the time is. That's an amazing thing. Well, I have one question about Billy, and then I really want to, go back to the neighborhood. Has Billy, I'm sure you had, but has he ever, the changes that you make, whether they're subtractive or what they are, how many of them come from him? How many of them does he ever say you don't need to do that there, or
no, not at all. He's been incredible. He really hasn't. After a couple of gigs, I was called to backstage before a show, and I guess it was at one of our first gardens, and I hadn't really talked to him about how he was feeling, and I walked up, and so his guy Noel, who's been his head of security, whom I've known for years, but he came up to me in very straight face, was like, "Boss wants to see you." I'm like, okay, and so he's just poker faced, and I'm walking behind him, and I'm thinking, what? Oh my God. So there's Billy having a cigarette. He's rocking back and forth on his heels, and he's having a coffee. And he's in the parking lot. So we go out, we go into where the vehicles are parked at the garden. He's having a cigarette. I'm like, hey, and so Noel leaves me, and I'm looking at him, and he goes like, you having fun? And I was expecting, the worst, and I was like so caught off guard. I was like, oh my God, yes. He's like, that's it.
That was
And I
it.
was like, am I fired? I didn't say that, but I was like, and?
Wow. Wow.
And my heart's about to explode out of my mouth. I'm like, I think I'm gonna get sacked, whatever. He's gonna, nope. You having fun?
Wow. How cool.
Just, God, really? So then I went back out the door, and Noel's sitting on the other side, like, I got you, right? I was like, you wound me so up, because I could see your face went white. You're like, he wants to see me? Oh my God. So it was, that's it. That's about all he's ever asked me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been incredible. Whatever changes I've made really have come at my own behest. No one has come to me and said, other than our sound man, and he was always like, you're doing something here at this, in this particular song. It's too much. And okay. And, it took me a while to not feel like, wow, I've been slapped on the wrist, but it wasn't like that. It was just simply, he was telling me, for the show, don't do that. And he was right. So.
Yeah, I guess I guess you have to understand that. It's interesting. It's like playing in the pit. We have a lot of friends that play in the pit on Broadway. There's no improv.
You have a show to play.
Right.
Well, that was what was happening. I was literally doing some fills differently every night, and that's when it was like that Billy looking up from the piano. And then suddenly I realized, oh wow, this isn't good. This is not good. So yeah, I'd like to think at this point I have the show in a really good place. I think the last 2 years I've spent the last 13 of them trying to get it right, because you come in and just think, well, I've done all these other gigs and I can change this for the better, and ultimately nah. And it's interesting because I can draw a parallel to somebody else who I'm still a huge fan of, but I was a big fan of him from other people he played with when Abe Laboriel first joined McCartney. If you watch some of the early videos, you can see him do things, and you can see Paul do that because he's throwing in he's throwing in stuff that no Beatles drummer would ever play, but that he grew out of. And I'm not saying it was right or wrong, and Paul was cool to give him the room to, like, you're in my band now, be you. And I think it's hopefully it's a sign of maturity, that if you listen to the way he plays with McCartney now, it's perfect for every song. There isn't a moment where he's back to doing all the Ringo fills. He's back to emulating the way those songs were performed initially, and I think McCartney has sounded better than ever.
Well, you have to represent. You're doing. It's not like you're not playing your own original materials in your material in your 4-piece band. You are a part of something that's much bigger than that needs to be represented in an authentic way, but not a mimic. Not, you don't want to sound like the other guy, but you want to sound like where it went from there, you want to own it. So listen, you're never going to find one exactly where another person finds it. That's what makes you swing your way. And when you can fit into that pocket and find a way to express yourself with your style and with your touch and with your choices.
Hey, I think that band rocks.
Yeah, it does rock. It's a great band.
Yeah, great band.
And but no, that and I mean, for me, I was always and still I was always an overplayer. I like to consider myself a lead drummer. But I mean, you would have thought I was getting paid. What's that?
All my favorite drummers were, lead drummers.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how how it happened, and so every band has been a different set of challenges. For the most part, Billy's never said anything. Don't play this. Don't play that. And my biggest change from doing Moving Out, which I think I probably played about 1,300 shows in a row over the 3.5 years, maybe more, because I was able to eventually do less shows with some substitutes. But was when I joined Billy, everything had to be slower. And
wow,
that was really hard. That was really hard because all the tempos for all the songs I learned of Bill's, we pumped them up so the dancers could show off. And as far as they were concerned, the peppier the tempo, the easier the show was to do. So
I get that.
Some of our songs were so fast and needed to be. That we would play it at rehearsals, and the answer was like, "Can you push that anymore?" And I was like, "Believe me, I can. Is that what you want?" They were like, "Absolutely." So going from Moving Out and starting to rehearse with Billy, it felt like, gosh, somebody should give me a Valium. Somebody should, my muscle memory was all wound up to start these songs at a certain tempo, and they were totally different.
So who gave the tempo? Did Billy give the tempo?
Well, on certain songs, sure. When he begins the song, yeah.
Right.
But other ones were up to me to set. But I had to completely dial it back. Muscle memory of having done, almost 1,500 shows in 3.5 years. Suddenly, now I'm going to start that song and it's 8 BPM slower, or 10, 12. I mean, really. And so what we did was we decided on I'm going to focus on remembering and knowing and putting in this Atama rhythm watch, which is what I was using to, I would put in record tempos. Because I said to him, one of the problems I had when I saw you live a couple of times was Liv was playing some of the songs that needed to be slower too fast, or he was playing some of the songs that needed to be faster too slow. And I was like, that didn't work for me. He was like, me neither. I was like, well, so maybe we can agree on, let me clock all the original tempos, and we played them at rehearsal, and he was looking at me like, wow.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what about that. That's amazing, because I had a similar situation when I did in 2001. I did a walk down Abbey Road, which was all Beatles stuff, but it was Alan Parsons, Ann Wilson, Todd Rundgren, John Entwistle, myself, and just there was the whole thing, and we're doing Beatles songs, and you can't rush that stuff. And for me, I know what you're saying. So what I did was I got back in the day, where did I get it from? I can't, it doesn't even matter. But it was a metronome that had a light on it. And
the Doctor had one, I think, originally, yeah. And the Tama Rhythm Watch has got a green, you can make it red or green red.
Yeah.
For the green downbeat.
Yeah.
And it's great until somebody puts a red light on over me, and then if I have to count the song off, I'm like, but you get good at seeing tempo with light.
Exactly. And I can't use a click track in the studio. I mean, I can and I will, but I much prefer to be able to see it. It's a little bit more feeling. It's not quite so, talk, talk, talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, I still use it to this day because I don't know about you, but most of the bands I work with, they were happy to start the songs, any particular song in a set faster than we had rehearsed it, or faster than it was on the album.
Yeah.
But in this particular case with Bill, once we decided that these were going to be the tempos, I pretty much still need to see it sometimes, because I get up in front of people, and if I'm going to start this song, I'm so overwhelmed with adrenaline at at any of these gigs, but at the Garden it's crazy that if I don't have that reference, because I'm not hearing it, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I don't have that as a reference, I'm gonna fly us to the moon. And it's funny because of all the gigs we've done the last couple of years, our last gig was in Mexico City, and it was the same as all these shows. I used all the same gear, but it was so cold that night that every song is probably 2 to 3 BPM faster than it should have been.
Oh.
And I was frozen, and I had a little heater blowing on me, but all it did was warm my legs, my upper body, and it was just, I know I was freezing. Billy got out there, and after 2 songs, he's like, I need a hat. He's got a big scarf, and everybody else was just freezing. And who knew in March that Mexico City was going to be like if it was 51 degrees on stage, we were lucky, and it had a stiff wind.
Whoa.
Man, I was so cold, and I listened to some of the performances of that night that are on YouTube, and wow. I mean, we're flying, but it was like either do this or die. I needed to keep blood going to the tips of my fingers and the tips of my toes.
No, believe me, I know the feeling. And so before I run you on the questions, take me back to New Jersey and the first band and that whole journey up through,
So I had a high school band that started in junior high, and we were called Red Bread eventually, R-E-D, B-R-E-D. And I had 2 guitars, bass and drums. For a while we had, 1 guitar. We were a trio with a singer. When we first began, I was the lead singer because, we couldn't find anybody to sing. So I kind of learned how to play and sing. And in any case, we did great in high school. After high school, I migrated up to Boston. I went to Berkeley for a very brief period and dropped out. I hated it. Then I came back into the Jersey area, and I had some amazing things happen. One of them was the second guitar player in my high school band went up to Boston with me, and within 4 months he was like, I don't like the scene up here. I got to go somewhere. And we wanted to do a band, but we couldn't find the personnel. So he said, I'm going to move to London. And he did. And within a year, he joined Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Wow.
He was with Bob until Bob died. So
wow.
So in high school, he was like Jimi Hendrix on guitar, playing with super feedback. But when he joined Bob didn't want any sustain. So on all those Marley albums, Albert was not only the only American in the band, but he was playing nothing but really, really cool, tasty, very, very clean guitar, which was the antithesis of who he was when I played with him. But he still plays with, to this day, the original Wailers, and he still fronts the band as far as I know. And
Wow.
he's a monster singer, guitar player.
Wow.
And in this incarnation, as of the last 5 years, he's loud, he's sustained, he chops, he's all the things that Bob didn't want to hear at the time, which I think he was right. But so
It's a new day.
To see Albert get the success that he had doubled down my intention to keep playing and finding better people to gig with. And then the other thing was, up in Boston, Al and I sat in with the Allman Brothers, and I ended up taking, and we got friends with them. They did a three-night stint at a place called It's No Longer There, the Boston Tea Party. And we befriended them the first night. Second night, I was able to sit in for Butch, and Albert was given Dwayne's Les Paul to play.
Wow.
And we played on a song called Dreams off of their first album, because they were on tour with that first record with Whipping Post, and it was after I played with them and sat in with them that I was like, I gotta keep playing. So Boston was not where I wanted to be, so I came back to Jersey, lived there for another 2 years, had a couple of club bands, and then I didn't really find, I moved to the West Coast for a couple of years, made great friends, was in a bunch of great bands. And I really didn't get a professional break until 7 years out of high school. I joined Al Di Meola.
Oh.
And I was still fusion guy, right? Like whenever I played rock and roll, I was doing my best Billy Cobham fills, and it was horrible. But everybody I played with put up with it, and I used every gig as a practice place. And it's a terrible thing to get into, but at the time I just wanted to keep learning and growing. So, and joining Al was kind of at the tail end of fusion as a genre that was even, being attended anymore. I mean, it was still doing great. We went on the road and opened up for Weather Report and their heavy weather tour. So that blew my mind. I was then asked to join a band called Brand X that Phil Collins had started, and that was one of the last fusion gigs, fusion recordings I ever did. And then it was suddenly back to rock and roll. So Montclair, the biggest influence getting back to Montclair is when I was in grammar school, I met a guy who was in junior high at the time called Joe Walsh.
Oh.
And he lived down the street from us, and he had a band that used to gig in the same place as my junior high band did 5 years later. But Joe ended up being like my older brother, and his success with what was first the Measles, which turned into the James Gang, changed my life, because he would show me and Albert and the guys in my high school band how to play a Who song right, because he had just been on tour with them with the James Gang. Or he would show us, this is how Jimmy Page plays this, because he was on tour with them with the James Gang. And this is how Jimmy played this, because he was opening up for Jimmy with the James Gang. So
Amazing.
he was my bro. He was, if he can do it, I can do it. And being able to jam with him when he would come home to visit his folks who lived right down the street from my folks, and our folks became great friends. And his high school drummer got me learning the first rudiments. So that was he was my big influence, and I was still in grammar school. But it really wasn't until the Beatles on Ed Sullivan that I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a professional drummer.
That's hey man, you know what? It was a little different than that for me, but not a lot. I was in kindergarten, and the high school band came to my elementary school, and it was the first time I had heard music, especially with ambience. And I said to the girl next to me, who's still a friend, and she reminded me of this. I had totally forgotten. Out of an epiphany. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so far, so good. And I will tell you this, as far as fusion is concerned, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Well, you know,
I'm sending you a track, man. Trust me. Wait till you see what's coming your way, because there's no rules anymore. I broke out stuff that I wrote 25 years ago when when I was just learning MIDI, and it was at the very, very beginning of digital audio and that whole thing. And they're madness tracks. It's all times and signatures, and it's all over the place. And I'm telling you, I'm sending you tracks, and you're going to want to play something on something, and we're going to do this.
Awesome.
And
I love it.
you save all that Dream Theater shit for me, pal, because I'm telling you, we're going to do. I got you covered.
I gotta plug this. I'm a member of a band called. Can you see this?
What does that say?
It's backwards.
Oh, okay. It's called Tokyo Motor Fist, and it was we just released our second album on Frontiers Records, and it's an '80s vibe, but there are definitely I wouldn't say. Well, there's some odd time moments. There's some chops moments. It's one of the best albums I've ever done.
Well, send me a link, man. This is what this show's about.
I will. It was written and produced by Steve Brown. Steve Brown is the original founder and writer of Trickster, and they had a million-selling album, their first album out.
I remember them.
And he's one of my favorite people. He's just super talented, but he wrote all these songs, and we've just released this on Frontiers, and this is our second record, and there is some fusion in there. Mark Rivera takes a solo on it, and Steve plays some of the most deadly guitar I've ever heard.
Wow.
It's an amazing band. Greg Smith is the bass player.
Oh, yeah.
He's been
One of
on
my
the
favorite
show.
people and bass players as well.
Yeah, I played with Greg a few times. He's a fire, and he's been on the show. I mean, it's like I got everybody.
Yeah. So, well, I will send you a link to this because I'm really proud of it. The mix is monster. The songs are stupendous. It's just, it's just a knockout album. He edited some of my Dream Theater shit out, and I gave him carte blanche because he had the vision, and it was like, that's fine, man. I was like, I get it. That was too much. It was like, yeah, that was too much.
I'm going to leave you with a witticism, and then we're going to jump to my questions.
Okay, all right.
I was mixing. I played with Entwistle for for the last part of his life, and I was mixing a record in England, and he comes into the control room and he said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm having a little hard time." I said, "I'm not sure if the bass is loud enough or if it's too loud." And he said, "Well, it's easy. Turn it up then. You can be sure."
Spoken but like a true mad Englishman. Yeah.
Man, let me tell you what, and he was well. Listen, it's another story for another time. But yeah, man, I mean, it was with him. What? Say again.
We both, as Americans, work with some wild Englishmen.
Yeah, and Joe Walsh was one of his best friends.
Well, the connections, our connections. Joe Walsh. I've played with Joe several times in every kind of situation, and Joe's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, wound up being John's next girlfriend. And as I'm sure you know, Joe played on those early solo albums, and Joe Vitale. I mean, it's a whole crazy little, cacophony of craziness. But
yeah, no, it really is.
well, I'm coming after you at the time, brother. I am coming your way. You have a way to record,
Yeah, I got a whole. Well, you can't see it, but yeah, I've got one of the reasons why I went to a smaller kit was to make recording just easier. I got one mounted tom, one floor, and I got the big bass drum as like a holdover from the things I use with Billy, but also it's the biggest second floor tom I've ever had, and it works. So I've gone to a very simple kit for a variety of reasons. But yes, I have a way to record, and it's been coming out really good.
Oh, I'm coming to get you, man, for sure. And for me, that is a very pared down kit. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
I remember once going to see Buddy Rich play. And I had it's when I had the Octoplus of Blue Vista lights and all the Fibes chrome stuff on the floor and the North drums and the gong, and the chimes and the whole thing. And I wanted to show him the picture of the drums, right? So I go up there and I hand it to him, and he turns it over and signs it. It was like, no. And then he looks at it and he goes, "You play all these?" And I said, they wouldn't be there if I didn't play them. I mean, it was like, and I've been adding crap ever since.
Yeah, I've been taking it away.
Well, listen, it'll always find a home here, and don't worry. I go out in my garage. It's like a frickin' history lesson. It's insane. Road cases and the gold set and the chrome set and this set. But man, I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. And just for my own personal knowledge, whose sticks do you play?
I play Promark.
Promark.
I've been with them since 1997.
Yeah, see, I've been a Vader guy since '88.
You don't have any sticks in it.
Oh, I thought I should have sticks. What happened? I used to be in a band. That's nice.
They're actually Simon Phillips size. They're right, so they're a hickory, and this ended up being the closest to what felt good in my hand. And for years, I used, for way too many years, I used spray stickum sticks, and literally ripping my hands to shreds, because once that was done, it took forever to get the stick out. But now I use the Promark wrap, which has changed my life. I still get blisters, but nowhere near what they were. And Where is it? Here it is.
There it is. Because I play conventional. I play a traditional grip.
I grew up playing like that, and I turned over 1979, and still to this day don't have half the strength doing doubles that I do this way.
Yup.
Whatever. I mean, that's just what it is. I can't get those formative, 15 years or whatever it was, 10, 12 years of playing this way before I switched over.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I play Promark, and I play Tama, and I play Pisces.
See, I am all right. So I just actually made the first. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it was about 10 or 12 years ago. But I always played when I had Billy Cobham and I had the first sets of Fibes drums.
Drums, yeah.
My snare drum, and I still have them. My snare drum has a tag on it when they were made in Farmingdale. And it says demonstrator model only. I don't know how I got this, because I bought them through Sam Ash, but I've got it. And then, here, you see, now that's when you married the right girl, it takes you there, right?
There's my signature, but it's kind of worn off. But yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, I still have this is it's a nylon tip. I started out on Regal tip, 5Bs, and it's always been 5Bs for me. Always been 5Bs. I gave myself tendonitis thinking that I had to play as loud as Jimi Hendrix, and not realizing that Mitch Mitchell was mic'd. So I got those parade sticks and gave myself But yeah. I've always played, and what I do when I need to get that real left-hand whip is I just open my hand up all the way and let the thing go all the way back, and then snap it, and it's like
that.
Yep.
I would take my fingers completely off of it. and snap it with and it starts shredding that little spot right.
Yep.
I'm telling you, this is just from a couple of days.
He has to crazy do it.
Yeah. I hear you.
I have to. Oh man, this is what we see, and this is for the other phone call. But I used to, when we were playing, when Rat Race was playing 6 nights a week, 50 weeks a year, in the winter, this thing would get so bad that it would split open.
Open all my.
And my remedies were, I had a friend who was a surgeon who would give me stitches. Mark Hitt used to give me crazy glue, and then somewhere there was some kind of an anesthetic.
Well, yeah.
And I used to perform surgery and then take a surgical glove and cut off the fingers and the thumb, cut a hole in the palm, and that's the way I was able to keep playing. And it hurt, man.
The anesthetic, I remember using that quite frequently, whether I had a callus or not.
Yeah.
But I eventually found liquid skin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's got olive oil in it, and liquid skin and some good gaffer tape, and that's pretty much gotten me through my life. And you know, wintertime comes, all my all the places that I get chafed, they crack, they split, they get horrible. I'm probably like more, like less calluses now than I've been in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, me too. I'm not slamming as hard as I used to back then.
I'm not gigging, and you know, even if I'm recording or I'm in my studio here, it's not the same as being in front of 25,000 people or whatever it is.
I know.
And of adrenaline where I'm like, let's go, and then when I get home, I'm like, ow.
It's a gear. I'll tell you what. It's a gear that you can't hit on your own. You can't get into 5th or 6th if you're by yourself. I mean, you can barely do it in a rehearsal hall. You can't get that thing that happens. I live for that thing. And I'm like, before I go on, man, I'm like a caged animal, pacing back and forth. I can't wait.
Yeah, well, I think all drummers are like that because we have more energy than most people. I mean, I'm just wound up all the time, so right before a show, man, I'm jumping up and down. I'm doing jumping jacks. I'm like, everybody's looking at me. I'm like, what? I'm like, I got to warm every one of these muscles up because as soon as I get up there, I'm hitting as hard. I'm not a guitar player who's got the, I can make the faces, but he's like feathering the strings and, no. I'm up there. I'm gonna give it 1,000,000%. I don't want to hurt myself.
Right, exactly right.
Always warming up and doing whatever I have to, and I'm the same way. I'm like that. Like a Jack in the Box, like pre-show is hopefully when it's time to get up there, the first note is pop goes the lead.
Yeah, and what they don't realize is you have to be sweating before you ever get up there, especially, and maybe Billy's a little bit more, that gig is maybe a little more forgiving, but Brand X or any of that shit, you had to be on fire when you got out there, because in Rat Race we used to do all the Mahavishnu stuff, and we used to go, if it was hard to play, we wanted to play it, and you can't, you got to go out there like jacked, which was easy back in the day,
From the anesthetic.
Yeah, it was easy back in the day. I know how you went out there jacked. I know all about that.
All right, Chuck.
Have to be, man. What a great guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
You're glad to see a guy like that with a good gig.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves it, and the gig deserves him. So, anyway, that's our Throwback Thursday. Chuck, man, if you're watching, bro, thank you. We have to do a Memory Lane Monday with Chuck, but we'll get there. So, now what?
Tomorrow night we have Free for All Friday.
Free for All Friday.
So,
if
Laurie, be sure to DM us about.
Yeah, we need to know about your cloud DVR.
That's right.
because this is serious stuff for us.
And once again, happy birthday, Michael Newton.
Very happy birthday, Michael.
And
Now?
Yes.
Waiting for my cue. If I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Good night, everybody.
Take it easy, kids. We'll see ya. And cue the theme song.